I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you. Garnet and I began ranching when we graduated from college in 1976. And any of you that remembers what the late 70s and early 80s are like, it resulted in some changes that were not planned. And one of those changes was I became a licensed crop agent. So for over 35 years, I've also had a crop license. So I'm going to share with you some of my observations in production agriculture, and in particular how it may impact crop insurance. You can see this is an aerial of our ranch with our ranch motto on it, on the bottom of it. All right, so this is our family, and Don mentioned about it. We're in the 3%. Our son is the 5th generation. I can tell you that if I don't make it home tonight, he might not miss me because I'm not doing a whole lot anymore. Not really. I do have a lot of things I do, but he doesn't depend on me. And I'm going to challenge you, people that are my age. I'm 69. If you're 69 years old and you're waking up in the morning and you're deciding what needs to be done on your farm or ranch, you got a problem you need to deal with. It's been a number of years since I've had to do that. And I'm just going to challenge you to bring in the next generation. I'm happy to say that my grandsons and my granddaughter who are in there are already being groomed to be the 6th generation. And I'm really proud of that. So our ranch is north of here, about 120 or 30 miles. You can see the size of our ranch. It's in the southern part of Walworth County. About 10% of it is tillable ground, 90% is grass. Next. We have spring calving cows. Next. Stockers. Next. We also have cropping. Some of it's row crop, corn, soybeans, wheat. Next. To my grandsons in a wheat field. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is a little bit of what you're seeing here. And I took this picture, and I think many of you have either seen this in your neighborhood or are seeing it. And the thing that come to my mind, I know things change, but it bothers me when I see something like this because of what's happening to our landscape, what's happening to our ecosystems. And one of the things I think about when I see that is, there probably is government money involved in that water development. And one of the things that's bothered me is if there's just incentives for practices without affecting what's between your ears, in other words, trying to think about why you're doing something, this is what the end result is. Next. So one of the things I came across, I took a picture of, I'm standing right now in a very flat area on top of a hill. And this is a federal water development project. And isn't it ironic that they were mandated to put an erosion control barrier around that water development that was all grass, with just one structure on it, while they were building it. And the farmer on the other side of the barrier was converting grassland to farm ground, and you can see it there. Next. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about the economics of why this is occurring. And so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you numbers not just on our ranch, but some that have been accumulated by looking at other data. First of all, this is data that I got from Mitchell Votek Adult Farm Management. And for a number of years, I've been tracking their data, and I've been using it. I served on a ag-land tax task force a number of years ago, and I tried to document what's happening and the incentives or disincentives that tax policy was providing. But it can be used for a lot of other things. And so what I'm going to show you here is 2 sets of data, one from 2020 and one from 21. They didn't have anything newer than that I could use. So if you look at that, what I want to show you is corn on cash rent. And if you go down, I've highlighted it. And it should say $263. Now that's per acre. And that's in 2021. Wait a minute, is that the 2020 slide? Excuse me. I'm going to flip, I got to get the right page, I apologize. All right, so that one is corn on cash rent. So that's net return over labor and management of $148.22. Now why don't you move across, and we are going to look at beef cow average per cow. Okay, let's scroll down. Minus $323. Okay, so now when you look at the what your return is per acre and what your return is per cow, you can see why conversions are taking place. Now, people are going to say, well, this is just 1 year. You know, now the table is turned and the numbers have changed. So let's look at 1 more year at a little different data. And this is, I think this is the one I thought it was. Let's scroll down to that, net return per acre. And that shows 218.87, correct? Okay, 216.87. All right, now let's go pasture cash rent, and that's 4104. So now this is just cash rent. This is somebody that's cash renting it out. So you can see there's 5 times more income. So you can see this is the data that they've collected, and it lends to why conversions are taking place. All right, let's go to the next set of data, or next slides. So this is on our ranch, and what I'm going to show you here is Section 12, 121.73. And what I've highlighted there, we have in that section some CRP on ground that used to be farmed, and the rest is grazed. And you can see it's $97.94 for the CRP that was farmed, and then the balance of it is $22.95. Now, if we'd have been smart a number of years ago, we'd have kept farming what you see that's outlined, that had a cropping history, but we didn't. So instead of getting $97.94 on it, we're getting $22.95. Granted, we can still run cattle on it, but I'm just talking about grassland CRP at $22.95 versus general or continuous crop sign-up CRP of $97.94. Now, the interesting thing about it also is in the top center, there's a field at 16.68 acres that had the same cropping history as the one that we're getting $97.94 on. So do you know why that didn't qualify? Anybody know why? Anybody want to take a guess? It's got to be 20 acres. So all around that 1668 is land that is suitable to be converted, as well as around the 97.94. So let's scroll down to the next one. This is CRP rental rates. I want to show you here, that's that same section. Those are all Class 2 soils, maybe a little touch of Class 3. But the bottom line is, actually no, I think that they're 2 and 3. There's some of both. The bottom line is most people would be farming a lot of that section. Let's go to the next one. This is National Ag Statistics Service rental rates. So if you look at it, and I don't know how many of you look at NAS rental rates, but you can see the difference between the crop ground and the grazing ground in our county. Quite a discrepancy. And again, I talked to you about Class 2 and Class 3 soils. So you start looking at rates that are 3 times as much. So now you can go down to the next one that shows, I'll tell you where to stop. There. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our data from our ranch and a little bit about the numbers behind it. So in the case of corn, we've got 174 bushel actual production history. If you insured at the 80% level, even in a year like this, you have almost a $650 guarantee. The estimated cost of production is around $600. So that ground, though, with that kind of APH, would rent for $125 an acre. Now, below that, I'm going to talk a little about our cattle. If you figure the average calf in the fall when you wean at $1,500, your gross per acre on your non-crop ground is equivalent to what you can rent the ground for if it was converted. Everybody with me on those numbers? Making sense? Go to the next one. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about crop insurance and some of the discrepancies there and how I feel the playing field is not level. So we ranch and we farm, and we have an insurance for both. So if you look on the left it talks about coverage at $30 an acre. That's pasture, range, and forage. That covers one peril, rainfall. That costs us about 10% of the coverage. So $30 an acre coverage, $3. To the right talks about our corn coverage. Now we're talking in 2023. In 2023, we had 100% coverage would have been $762, but we don't have that much because my son farms it on share. We run the neighbor's cattle, manages grass, and he does our farming for us, and we do a 50-50 share. So $381 acre coverage, $10 and change. Now here's the thing that's interesting. The subsidy for multi-peril crop insurance for us, and you're going to find it is, my entire book is that way, book of business. Almost 79% of it is covered by the taxpayer if you're a crop farmer. PRF, 59%, 55, in this particular case is 59%, but it can be, actually could be a little lower depending on what level you're at. So the linkage to receive that subsidy is this conservation compliance, this conservation plan. So in order to qualify for that subsidy, you've got to follow this conservation plan. So if you drain ground that shouldn't be, or you farm ground that is highly erodible, you'll lose that subsidy. So what I'm pointing out to you here is that it's pretty easy, depending on the year, to cover most of your expenses with crop insurance if you're a crop operator. If I had nothing but pasture, range, and forage type of coverage, which is nothing but rainfall for peril, and offered that to my crop farming friends, they would not be very happy with me. We're happy to have it. It's a good product, PRF. It's a good product to have if you're a rancher because historically it has been profitable for us. But it is not near the kind of safety net that our crop friends and my crop farmers and us have got on our crop ground. Next. So, native sod, I'll talk just briefly about that. I will tell you that there's a severe penalty for the first 4 years if you convert native sod. But the typical person that converts native sod, in my book of business, this is the way it works. They come to me after the decision has been made and say, all right, here's what we've done. Or they might say to me, our landlord said if you want to continue operating that ground, you're going to have to break it, or I'll find somebody else to operate it. So the issue is there's not a real severe penalty, not a severe enough, and it is only for 4 years. And then, they basically can pick up some pretty decent coverage. A lot of writing on there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. You'll have an opportunity to ask me some questions later because my time is about up. Let's look at it, see if there's one more. Okay. If anybody's interested, Beauty weighs 995 pounds, got a 63-inch spread, and she is for sale. And she's cake broke. She's very photogenic, too. So with that, thank you.